Howdy, everyone. Happy Friday. Today is a big day, as we all know. I'm starting a little bit early because I have a lot to talk about. We have been waiting now for months to figure out what's going to happen with Starliner. And as you can see from the title of this live stream, So Long Starliner. We are about to witness pretty soon here the live coverage of Starliner undocking from the International Space Station after an extended stay. Now, some people in the comments are already asking, will they be undocking with crew? Well, absolutely not. So I've been covering this story for the past couple weeks now, and this is a pretty big deal and a pretty big embarrassment for Boeing. They were already 7 years behind schedule with Starliner, and unfortunately, due to some safety concerns, Butch and Sunny, the two veteran astronauts, are going to be staying there until February of next year. That is pretty wild. They were only supposed to be there for 8 days, which is turning into 8 months. Let me turn my fan on before I heat up in here. All right, so hey Josh, thanks for joining. Daryl is watching. George is, or is it George's? Georgie? Georgie? Hi Georgie. Anyone get that reference? So I have the video pulled up. I'll be sharing it soon. The press coverage hasn't started yet, but as soon as that's up, I will be sharing that. But in the meantime, I'm going to be sharing just some of this B-roll and giving you guys some updates. So, one of the questions is, well, have they updated the software? And I think we can all assume yes. So that was one of the problems, is that Boeing apparently needed to take several weeks to update the software to configure it so that it could leave without crew. And you may ask yourself, well, they did this on the previous test flight uncrewed just fine, but for some reason, they just didn't have that as an option. They had the software available, but they had to change the configuration. So obviously not everyone in the chat is, a software expert, but apparently this change and testing that change took several weeks. And so, we can assume that they made that change because Butch and Sunny closed the door yesterday, and their go in pretty shortly here. Starliner will be leaving, undocking, and then it's going to have a 6-hour journey. And let me share with you an interesting image, because some of you, depending on where you live, you might want to run outside and see if you can see this in person here. So let me just find that tab. Sorry, I have too many tabs open. But okay, so let's see. Okay, add to stage. Here we go. So here is the visual that I wanted to show you. NASA posted not too long ago. Spot Starliner on its way back to Earth after the spacecraft undocks from the space station very shortly here, Friday, September 6th. It will soar through Earth's skies before landing in New Mexico. If you're on the visibility paths, all times, mountain time, and skies are clear, look up and you might see it. So I would love to know if anyone here watching does see it, and please send me a picture or a video. I'd love to feature it in a highlight video that I make wrapping up this coverage. But again, we're here in real time, and we are just awaiting a couple minutes here. And of course, I want to cover this live because this has been such a big deal. By the way, Scott Carr, thank you for the $20 super chat. Mechazilla shirts printed today. That's awesome. And they're shipping on Monday. So that was just an unbelievable success. I'm so excited for everyone to get those shirts. We had to print a lot, and so those will ship on Monday. So thank you for the update. Thank you for the super chat. That is very exciting. Very exciting. Okay. So we're still waiting. This is just B-roll, so don't get confused. There's not a launch right now. Everyone loves this clip. It's going to go down in history. One, two, there you go. The cover coming off. Um, I've had so many people say, "Did you notice that?" Yes, I noticed it. But let's pull up another very interesting graphic just while we have a couple minutes here, because this is actually really a great graphic and sort of description that the AP News made. So credit to AP News. However, this gives us a great timeline about Boeing Starliner's troubled history. So originally, Boeing and SpaceX were supposed to swap, you know, ferrying or taxiing to the ISS every 6 months. That was, of course, if Boeing was also operational with its Starliner. So in 2014, a decade ago, NASA hired Boeing and SpaceX to develop spacecraft to ferry astronauts to and from the International Space Station following the retirement of Space Shuttle in 2011. So that was in 2014. And in 2019, Boeing had its first test flight with no one on board, but there were problems. It ended up in the wrong orbit because of software errors skipping the space station. So that happened in 2019. It looked like Starliner was making progress. First test flight with no crew didn't go so well. Then fast forward just on the SpaceX side, this isn't on the graph, but in May 2020, SpaceX launched Crew Dragon for the first time with humans. I remember watching it, during the pandemic, and that obviously went well. And 6 months later, SpaceX was cleared to begin flying regularly, and we've heavily relied on them ever since. So let's look to 2022. Boeing's redo test flight without a crew reached the space station and returned to Earth, paving the way for astronaut launches, but more problems to follow. So again, this is when, the Starliner undocked from the ISS uncrewed, no problem. But unfortunately, for this launch with humans, they didn't have sort of both options available. Again, I know it's probably way more complicated. I'm just trying to make it, easy to talk about, but they had to spend several weeks to upgrade and configure the software so that it could come home without crew. But now it's going to do that very soon here. So let's go to this year, June 5th. So exactly, 3 months and a day ago, NASA astronauts Sunny Williams, shown left, and okay, I want to make sure you guys can see it, and Butch Wilmore rocket away as Starliner's first crew for what was supposed to be a week-long mission, a 3-hour tour. The thruster failures and helium leaks mar the capsule's trip to the space station. So they were having issues on the way up there. I'm so glad that they got there safely, but it wasn't exactly the smooth, hiccup-free test certification flight that I'm sure Boeing wanted to see. And as we know, on August 24th, so not too long ago now, NASA made the decision and the announcement after much deliberation and speculation that they would keep Butch and Sunny on the ISS until February, when they're going to ride home with SpaceX. Now, apparently, Boeing is sending their blue spacesuits that they used for Starliner back home today. And then Crew 9 will have to take up 2 brand new spacesuits that will be compatible with SpaceX. So that's a question I've seen a lot. So those blue suits that we see them in here, those are coming back to Earth today, from what I'm reading. Okay, so let's fast forward to where we are right now, present. September 6th, the empty Starliner gets the all clear to depart from the space station and aim for a touchdown in the New Mexico desert. And it's just starting. So we have some music here. Yeah. Okay. Let me share this tab again. I have the music kind of low, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. Oh, here we go.
Good evening and welcome to Starliner Mission Control in Houston, where teams are preparing for the autonomous undocking and departure of the uncrewed Boeing Starliner spacecraft from the International Space Station. Undocking today is currently planned for 5:04 p.m. Central, 6:04 p.m. Eastern. I'm Anna Schneider with NASA Communications, and joining me today in Starliner Mission Control is Lauren Brennicke from Boeing Communications. Across the hall in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, we also have NASA's Rob Navius.
In preparation for today's undocking activities, the teams here in Starliner Mission Control and the Flight Control team in the International Space Station Flight Control Room recently completed the go, no-go poll for Starliner's undocking. The teams all polled go to proceed with undocking.
Okay.
And the team here in Starliner Mission Control is being led by Flight Director Chloe Maring. Today's undocking will set Starliner on its path home for landing at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico, targeting approximately 11 p.m. Central, Friday, September 6th, midnight Eastern on Saturday.
NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams flew to the International Space Station in June as part of NASA's Boeing crew flight test, lifting off atop a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket from Space Launch Complex 41 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in
Why
Florida
are they
on June 5th.
reading
The
so
Starliner spacecraft docked to the International Space Station on June 6th.
seriously?
During the June 6th rendezvous, NASA and Boeing identified helium leaks and experienced issues with the Spacecraft Reaction Control System, or RCS thrusters, as Starliner approached the station. Since then, engineering teams have completed a significant amount of work, including reviewing a collection of data, conducting flight and ground testing, hosting independent reviews with agency propulsion experts, and developing various return contingency plans. The uncertainty and lack of expert concurrence did not meet the agency's safety and performance requirements for human spaceflight, thus prompting the NASA decision to return Boeing Starliner spacecraft to Earth without astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams aboard. The uncrewed return allows NASA and Boeing to continue gathering testing data on Starliner during its upcoming flight home, while also not accepting more risk than is necessary for its crew. Wilmore and Williams will continue their work formally as part of the Expedition 71 and 72 crew through February of 2025.
That's the
They
loudest
will
it
then fly
goes,
home
you guys.
aboard a
I'm
Dragon
sorry.
spacecraft with two other crew members assigned to the agency's SpaceX Crew 9 mission, NASA astronaut
Yeah.
Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. As part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, this is Boeing's second flight to the International Space Station and third Starliner flight test overall, following a second orbital flight test in May of 2022.
Why are we reading like it's a funeral? Or like we're trying to like read as fast as we can?
Yesterday, the hatches were closed between Starliner and the International Space Station. There are three hatches that separate the inside of Starliner from the orbiting laboratory: the Starliner hatch and the APAS hatch and No. 2 forward hatch on the station side. Following hatch closure, teams worked through steps to depressurize the vestibule, which is the area between the station hatch and Starliner hatch that were exposed to the vacuum of space prior to docking. Shortly after the go, no-go poll earlier today, where the joint teams here in the Starliner Mission Control and the International Space Station Mission Control polled go for undocking, NASA astronaut Sunny Williams called down to the flight control team on Space to Ground to share some words with the team before Starliner's departure later today. We'll go ahead and replay that exchange for you now.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Station Houston, Space to Ground 2 for Starliner undock status.
Go ahead, we're with you.
Hey, Sunny, both the Starliner and ISS flight control teams have pulled go for undock at this time. The expected undock time is 22:04.
Okay, copy, 22:04. Hey, we're just looking at the flight control roster, and wow, it is the all-star team. You guys, it is time to bring Calypso home. You have got this. We have your backs, and you've got this. Bring her back to Earth. Good luck.
Sunny and Butch, this is Chloe. Just on behalf of the entire MO team, I know the other flight control teams around the building, we thank you for your endless support over the years. We've enjoyed every training event and every meeting. We remember every setback and every revelation with you. The teams on the ground have worked countless hours over the last few weeks, months, and for a group of us, years to bring Calypso back, and we're ready to do that today. We wish you the best of luck in your increment, and Sunny, I will make sure the right people have your coming home song ready to play on Space to Ground when it's time for you guys to come home. Good luck and thank you.
Okay. It's the loudest it goes, so I'm sorry if it's...
Wonderful comments, Flight. We
There's
appreciate that, and we agree. Many years of great enjoyment, simming together, playing together, and being involved with each other's lives, and it's been special. Bring it home.
Bring her home. Yeehaw!
Copy. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Okay. What's going on is
We
that...
are now just over 13 minutes away from today's planned undocking. As we continue to approach that undocking, you can see the team here and the Starliner mission control team working in tandem with the ISS flight control room across the hallway.
Just before we came on the air here, the teams opened up the helium manifold to check Starliner's leak rate. Everything looks good. The teams say the rate remains steady, and we have plenty of margin for the rest of the flight. So let's talk a little bit about what is coming up. At around 5:02 p.m. Central, 6:02 Eastern, we are going to be listening for the authority to station. These 12 pre-planned burns will be performed with Starliner's forward-facing reaction control system, or RCS thrusters, which have been performing nominally during this flight.
Is it too loud?
Starliner will then begin a breakout burn, which will take the spacecraft forward and above the station. During this burn sequence, Starliner's thrusters will perform a series of 12 short firings. This entire sequence will take about 5 minutes to complete and will allow Starliner to quickly break out to outside of the approach ellipsoid, or AE. About 4 minutes into this burn sequence, Starliner will exit the keep out sphere, or KOS. The keep out sphere is an imaginary 200-meter sphere centered on the space station. Once outside the keep out sphere, vehicles must provide a 4-orbit safe free drift trajectory.
Around 5:10 p.m. Central, that automated breakout sequence will be completed. And then just 15 minutes later, we will be out of the approach ellipsoid. The approach ellipsoid is in the same family as the keep out sphere, but this time it is an imaginary 3-dimensional ellipsoid around the space station. Vehicles outside the approach ellipsoid have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory, and that means the spacecraft would not cross over that imaginary line for at least 24 hours, even if it lost all maneuvering capabilities. Once outside the approach ellipsoid, joint operations between the Starliner Mission Control and International Space Station Flight Control Room will conclude, and Starliner will be on a path back to Earth.
All right. Well, we're pretty close here. Ellipsoid. I have never heard that word in my life.
A few minutes ago, teams completed a final weather briefing to analyze weather predictions for the landing site at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico, and the weather continues to look good to support a landing later today. As part of the departure preparations for Starliner, mission managers completed a series of operational and weather checks. Yesterday, 24 hours before undocking, NASA analyzed the weather predictions for the landing site, and there are several different weather criteria that must be met, including winds at the selected landing site must be approximately 13 miles per hour or 12 knots or less when uncrewed, and ground temperatures must be warmer than 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and the cloud ceiling must be at least 1,000 feet. 1 nautical mile of visibility is also required, and the area must be clear of precipitation, thunderstorms, and lightning within an approximately 22-mile radius. A final weather check will also take place before the spacecraft's deorbit burn, which is currently scheduled for 10:17 p.m. Central, 11:17 p.m. Eastern.
You're right, Jessica.
And following the weather briefing, the navigation and docking lights on Starliner were turned on. The LADARs were confirmed to operate, and the RAL cards were enabled for departure. The LADARs, or laser detection and ranging lasers, create a 3D picture of the International Space Station for Starliner's computers to help the spacecraft guide itself around the ISS when it's flying close to the station. The LADAR system was developed and tested in orbit aboard the Space Shuttle as they docked with ISS. The RAL cards, or Remote Analog Interface Unit, gathers data on the status and health of critical spacecraft systems during all phases of the mission. This allows the important systems information to be stored aboard the spacecraft so engineers can review it once the spacecraft lands.
Every time I try to talk, they start talking. Maybe they'll have a pause. It's like, I don't want to. A rugby ball or a football is an ellipsoid. I just learned something new. I thought you guys were kidding. Cool. Ellipsoid. Ellipsoid. The word of the day, ellipsoid. Man, I wish that like I could help narrate this. I feel like it's so like doom and gloom. We need some oomph, you know? We need some well, I guess there's no excitement about this, but you know. So as you may or may not know, Starliner is a fixed price contract. So every, you know, all of the overrun in cost, Boeing is on the hook for, and it's currently at $1.6 billion of, you know, delays and extra costs that Boeing is in the red for, just in case you were curious. Now, another interesting thing, you know, is like, what is the future of Starliner in the program?
We're now just over 6 minutes away from the planned undocking at 5:04 p.m. Central. As we continue to stand by for Starliner's departure from the International Space Station, I'll hand it over to NASA's Rob Navius for an update from the International Space Station Flight Control Room.
Okay.
Thanks, Anna. Here in the Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, the flight control team led by Flight Director Anthony Varia is in the final moments before the expected undocking of Starliner from the forward port of the Harmony module on the International Space Station. Once the undocking is complete and Starliner has exited the approach ellipsoid that you heard Lauren describe just a moment or two ago, the 9 crew members on board the station, led by Commander Oleg Kononenko, will begin their sleep period. They're going to be moving into an off-duty period on Saturday. The vacancy of the forward port of Harmony will open up that port for the beginning of 2 crew rotations over the next several weeks. Next Wednesday, NASA's Don Pettit and Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner will be launching from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on a 2-orbit rendezvous to reach the International Space Station. That will swell the station's population to 12 and begin an 11-day handover with NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson and Kononenko and Nikolai Chub, who will be departing the station on September 23rd. A day later, if everything goes as planned, NASA's Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov will be launching from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on the SpaceX Crew Dragon Freedom. They will be a 2-man crew to reach the International Space Station and provide the orbital Uber, if you will, for Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams to come home on next February, with Wilmore and Williams completing what is expected to be about a 262-day mission. Meanwhile, the Crew 8 crew, Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Alexander Grebenkin, are in the final weeks of their mission on board the station. They are planning to depart after a 5-day handover with Hague and Gorbanov. That handover will lead the way for a departure on or around October 1st. The Crew 8 crew will then be coming home to bring the station back to its complement of 7 crew members. So with that, we're about 3.5 minutes away from the planned undocking of Starliner. We'll be watching carefully. It will take about 21.5 minutes from undocking for Starliner to exit the approach ellipsoid that you heard Lauren describe a moment ago. That's that 2.5 mile long by 1.2 mile wide corridor, if you will, the neighborhood of the International Space Station. So we'll be following along as Starliner begins its journey home and a landing at midnight Eastern Time at the White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico. With that, we'll turn it back to you, Anna, in the Starliner control room.
Station Houston, Space to Ground 2 for Starliner undock status.
Go ahead.
ISS and Starliner flight control teams remain go for an on-time undock at 22:04 please perform 1.106 cruise CST 100 approach and departure monitoring steps 2.2 and 2.3. Verbally call Houston when physical step is confirmed. Be advised that NDS hook motors are driving. Space-to-space comm may be ready.
I'm going to answer your question, Zap fan.
ISS crew copies ready for undock monitoring.
Again, no one's on board. Some people in the comments still think that there are humans.
Thank you, Rob. And we just heard some conversation between the crew on the International Space Station and the teams here in the Starliner Mission Control, confirming that we are continuing to be go for an undock in just under 2 minutes from now at 5:04 p.m. Central, 6:04 p.m. Eastern. We are standing by for the command of the undock ATP or authority to proceed.
Okay, predictions. Is it going to go well? Is it going to go smoothly? Are we going to have any hiccups? Leave them now. Leave them now.
Once the authority to proceed is issued for undocking, the NDS or NASA docking system hooks will begin to open, and there are 12 hooks that seal the surfaces between the NDS and the ISS International Docking Adapter, or IDA. Once all 12 hooks are open, springs on Starliner's docking ring will push the spacecraft away from the space station.
And Flight Director Chloe Marion just asked for quiet in the room as we are approaching 1 minute out from Starliner undocking.
Oh my God. We're so close. Quiet in the room. They're going to be quiet. I can answer the question.
And we just heard confirmation that the umbilicals are retracting and hooks are beginning to drive.
Maybe I can't. Let's just watch this and then I'll answer the question. Woo! I really hope it does go well. Sincerely. I know I've, been critical, but obviously we don't want a hiccup right now. Yeah, I agree with Mark. I think it's going to be fine. Mark's a veteran. Mark knows. The undocking and landing will be nominal.
30 seconds.
Yeah, so 30 seconds. This is like oddly exciting. It's like, we're closing some chapters. This has been, I've called it the Starliner saga. Oh my God, let's go. Wow.
Separation confirmed. Starliner is now backing away from station and starting its return to Earth. Starliner's thrusters will then complete 2 short firings to gradually increase the separation speed to help the spacecraft carefully move away from the orbiting lab.
Yeah, let's see those thrusters do their job.
The vehicle is now about 2 meters away from the International Space Station. At the time of undocking, Starliner and the International Space Station were flying approximately 260 statute miles over central China.
Oh, wow. It's so really cool to see it just float away. All your problems floating away.
Starliner will be beginning a breakout burn soon, which will take the spacecraft forward and above station.
Wow.
During this burn sequence, Starliner's thrusters will perform a series of 12 short firings. The entire sequence takes about 5 minutes to complete and allows Starliner to quickly break out to outside the approach ellipsoid, or AE. And about 4 minutes into the burn sequence, Starliner will exit the keep out sphere, or the KOS.
Okay, so far so good. I hope I don't jinx it.
And you can see those thrusters firing there on the left of your screen as Starliner backs away from space station.
Oh, you can. That's so crazy.
And we are now just at 35 meters away from the International Space Station.
It's honestly like really good quality.
We saw a good first burn.
But you guys, space is fake, right?
Houston, ISS thrusters enabled.
Confirmation, all 27 jets have fired.
Woo!
Houston copies, ISS thrusters enabled.
And you're seeing the light show there on your screen.
Thank you for the super chat, Greggy. Oh, wow. Oh,
And the first 3 of the 12 firings have completed, and there's about a 100-second pause until the fourth burn.
2001 vibes. Now would be the time to play Bye 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 by NSYNC. This whole thing was filmed in Ohio. I don't know why that's funny. Sorry to anyone who lives in Ohio.
Starliner is about 60 meters away.
Wow. Who else is going to stay up or, watch this for the next 6 hours?
And flight controllers are reporting good attitude and good control.
Good attitude.
We are standing by for the fourth of the 12 burns in the series of firings as part of the breakout burn. As a reminder, the entire sequence will take about 5 minutes to complete. About 4 minutes into the sequence, Starliner will cross what is known as the keep out sphere. The keep out sphere is an imaginary 200-meter sphere centered on the space station.
It's imaginary.
We are 15 seconds away from the fourth burn in the series of 12.
Ross makes a good point. The amount of separation makes us all feel better now. Seems to be going well.
And you just saw burn 4, which just completed. We're hearing good burn.
So far, so good. Nothing broken yet. You're right, Ron.
And the fifth burn in that sequence of 12 just completed, and it was a good burn.
Okay, who in the chat lives in New Mexico? Richard said the people in New Mexico will be watching. You can bet on that. Who's in New Mexico that might see this?
The sixth burn in the series of 12 was just completed, and it was a good burn. We are halfway through the series of 12, 6 more to go.
So Sonex Aviator says re-entry will be the problem. We're not even to, the crux of the problem. If you're a climber, you know what I mean by the crux of the climb.
You might be able to see some of those lights on the front of Starliner, a red and a green and a white. Those indicate the different sides of Starliner, and they're used by the ISS crew to watch Starliner move away from the ISS along the undocking axis.
And we just heard good confirmation of both burns 7 and 8 completed. Starliner undocked approximately 5 minutes ago and has just a handful of short firings left in its breakout burn, and it is now about 150 meters away from the International Space Station. And we heard confirmation of a good burn 9, 3 more to go.
Thank you, Stumpy, for the super chat. Apparently you love me. I appreciate that. Sorry, I've been kind of MIA. I was at a YouTube conference in Dallas, which I actually have some hot takes, but
burn 10,
I don't know if anyone cares about those. Seeing some predictions here.
We have one more burn to go, but they have confirmed that Starliner has crossed the Keep Out Sphere, or the KOS, which is an imaginary 200-meter sphere centered on the International Space Station that helps flight controllers here on the ground monitor the arrival and departure of visiting vehicles.
Station Houston, space to ground 2. Starliner has exited the Keep Out Sphere.
All right. Well, ISS in good shape.
Okay, she's exited the Keep Out Sphere.
It's safe. Will Boeing be able to overcome this bad situation? That is the question. I mean, they have a new CEO, Kelly Ortberg. I do not envy that guy. They're in a tough spot, I mean, to go from...
A reminder, this automated breakout sequence was chosen to use Starliner's forward thrusters, which have remained nominal during this flight.
And we heard confirmation that all 12 burns in this series of breakout burn firings have completed, and they were all good burns. Starliner has crossed the keep out sphere. So the next milestone for Starliner's departure will be crossing the approach ellipsoid, or AE. The AE is another invisible shape monitored by the flight control team, measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. Starliner is scheduled to cross the approach ellipsoid in about 10 minutes. Vehicles outside the AE have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory, which means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours, even if it lost all maneuvering capabilities. Once outside the approach ellipsoid, joint operations between Starliner Mission Control and the International Space Station Flight Control Room will conclude, and Starliner will be on a path back to Earth.
Thank you, Stephen. Ellie is one of the best space-time YouTubers. That really means a lot. Geo says, I hear Mr. Beast was a no-show. Correct. If you want the hot takes, I'll talk about it a little later. But yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Ellie, you're so strong. I've seen you lifting on Instagram. Way to go with rock climbing too. Keep it up, girly. It has been awesome climbing again.
We're now taking a look from the VESTA system, which stands for Vision-Based Electro-Optical Sensor Tracking Assembly. It's a bit of a mouthful, so we like to call it VESTA.
VESTA.
And this is a look from Starliner back at the International Space Station. The system is really the eyes of Starliner. It's able to pick up on features on the outside of station, like handrails and reflectors. You can see some of that on your screen there in the outlines. And it's the way to assess Starliner's position and attitude. It also gives the ground teams a very accurate look at Starliner's location relative to the station. So earlier we were taking a look from the station back at Starliner. Now we're looking from Starliner back at station.
Thank you, Tin Man, by the way. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification.
We're just under 10 minutes away from the AE exit. So in the meantime, we will check back in with NASA's Rob Navius in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Rob?
Oh, why is the mood?
Thank you, guys. Flight Dynamics has reported that Starliner is on a perfect trajectory backing away from the International Space Station.
It's about time.
And opening a rate of about 13.5 statute miles per rev at the time of the deorbit burn at 10:17 and 13 seconds p.m. Central Time later this evening. The vehicle will be about 56 statute miles away from the International Space Station. That deorbit burn, by the way, will be a 59-second burn to slow Starliner down by 129.9 meters per second, a 4 OMAX burn. OMAX, the acronym for the Orbital Maneuvering and Attitude Control System, thrusters and jets on the Starliner spacecraft that will enable Starliner to begin to drop out of orbit for its intended southwest to northeast trajectory across the Pacific Ocean, across Baja California, and heading towards its landing at the White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico. With the forward port of Harmony now vacant, that sets the stage, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, for the start of a couple of crew rotations that are coming up. Down at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, Don Pettit of NASA and Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner and their backups are in the final stages of their preparations for launch next Wednesday. Their Soyuz 2.1A booster and the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft that they will ride to orbit. That vehicle will roll out to the launch pad in Baikonur on Sunday, and then final preparations will lead them to a launch next Wednesday at 11:23 a.m. Central Time, heading for a 2-orbit, 3-hour, 10-minute journey to dock to the International Space Station's Rassvet module. Now, that forward port on Harmony that was just vacated by Starliner's departure will be the port of call for NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, and their launch no earlier than September 24th on the SpaceX Dragon Freedom spacecraft off of Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. That will be about a 30-hour transit for those 2 crew members to reach the International Space Station and the automated docking to the forward port of Harmony.
Wow. September.
Ultimately, Haig, Gorbanoff, Butch Wilmore, and Sonny Williams will do a relocation of the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft from the forward port of Harmony to the zenith port of Harmony, opening up that forward port for the arrival of the next SpaceX cargo ship, SpaceX 31, that's scheduled for launch in October. So a lot of activities lying ahead for the space station crew. The crew aboard the International Space Station soon will begin its sleep period and an off-duty day on Saturday, while the activity shifts over to the White Flight Control Room down the hall, as they are in a shift handover right now. Flight Director Rick Henfling will be taking over shortly to supervise entry and landing operations, and the team over there will be monitoring the progress of Starliner as it moves to its deorbit position about 56 statute miles away from the International Space Station. With that, we'll turn it back to the White Ficker and Anna and Lauren.
56 miles away is the deorbit.
Thank you, Rob. Starliner is now about 750 meters away from the International Space Station as it continues to make its way to the approach ellipsoid exit. Again, that approach ellipsoid exit is targeted for 5:25 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:25 and 30 seconds p.m. Eastern Time, and everything continues to proceed as planned with Starliner's departure and return back to Earth.
Okay, well,
And you're looking live at Starliner and pre-drift. Engineers are telling us that the breakout burns all went well.
Woo! Okay.
Thrusters are all looking good. Everything is nominal as we continue up and around space station and head back to Earth.
That is good news. Breakout burns all went well.
Again, Starliner undocked just a short while ago from the International Space Station at 5:04 p.m. Central, 6:04 p.m. Eastern, as the space station and Starliner were flying approximately 260 statute miles over central China. And shortly after that physical separation, Starliner's thrusters completed 2 short firings to gradually increase the separation speed and help the spacecraft carefully move away from the orbiting laboratory as part of the separation burns. And then Starliner began the breakout burn, which was a series of 12 short firings, which allowed the spacecraft to quickly move outside the keep-out sphere, and it is now approaching the approach ellipsoid exit. And once Starliner is outside of the approach ellipsoid, the joint operations between teams here and the Starliner Mission Control and the International Space Station Flight Control Room across the hall will end, and Starliner will be back on its path to Earth.
Yup. Okay, so they're probably going to be talking for another 6 minutes. Mark wants to know, will you be back on for the landing? Time for supper here in the Northeast. I do plan to be back on because this thing... I'm not covering
We are about
it.
6 minutes away from that approach ellipsoid exit, and Starliner is now about 900 meters away from the International Space Station, traveling at a rate of 1.2 meters per second.
Okay, I'm just going to mute it for a second. Yes, I do plan to be back on later.
That dot in the center of your screen is Starliner.
Wow.
Looking from space station.
A pale white dot. Just like the pale blue dot. Okay, I have things I want to say, but I don't know if I should just mute them or we should keep listening until they probably take quite a long pause, because it's going to take 6 hours for this bad boy to reach New Mexico. Barney, I agree. It's amazing we can actually see this. I agree. That is something to be excited about. I wonder how Butch and Sonny feel watching their ship leave without them. I bet it's actually pretty emotional. Yeah, it'd be great to hear from them. So, ISS is safe. That's right. Yeah. So I will get to talking about a few things. I just want to, see.
We are now about 5 minutes away from the approach ellipsoid exit. Starliner undocked from the International Space Station about 16 minutes ago at 5:04 p.m. Central, 6:04 p.m. Eastern. Starliner is now just over 1,000 meters away from the International Space Station. After Starliner crosses the approach ellipsoid, the next milestones for the vehicle will be its entry cover closure, and that is planned for about 6:42 p.m. Central, 7:42 p.m. Eastern, and then there will be some checkouts of the OMAC thrusters at 7:05 p.m. Central, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. And then after that, we get into the entry and landing coverage, and the go no-go for the deorbit burn will be at approximately 9:57 p.m. Central, 10:57 p.m. Eastern, following with the deorbit burn about 20 minutes later at 10:17 p.m. Central, 11:17 p.m. Eastern.
That means I have a few hours to do my Legos and shoot an ad.
Again, seeing good views of Starliner leaving the International Space Station. It's that distant dot on your screen. The vehicle is now about 1,120 meters away from the International Space Station.
Yeah, a lot of people are commenting on the door hatch still open. Tin Man said that they will close it, shortly before re-entry. So sounds like they know what's going on. I know it looks alarming.
And we just heard confirmation that Starliner is out of the approach ellipsoid.
It does look kind of weird how
the approach ellipsoid is a imaginary three-dimensional ellipsoid around the space station, and vehicles outside of the approach ellipsoid have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory, which means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours, even if it lost all maneuvering capabilities. Now that Starliner is outside of the approach ellipsoid, joint operations between the Starliner Mission Control and International Space Station Flight Control Room will conclude, and Starliner is now on a path back to Earth. So once again, Starliner undocked from the International Space Station at 5:04 p.m. Central, 6:04 p.m. Eastern, as the space station was flying 260 statute miles over central China. Shortly after physical separation, Starliner's thrusters completed 2 short firings to gradually increase the separation speed to help the spacecraft carefully move away from the orbiting laboratory.
Starliner then began the breakout burn, and Starliner's smaller jets performed a series of 12 short burns to allow the spacecraft to quickly move outside the approach ellipsoid. Starliner again crossed the approach ellipsoid moments ago and is now on its journey home. The next milestones for Starliner ahead of its deorbit burn targeted for 10:17 p.m. include crossing the entry cover, closing the entry cover, and conducting checkouts of the OMAX, or the orbital maneuvering and attitude control thrusters. Those are the bigger jets on Starliner.
So yeah, the hatch will stay open until the deorbit burn is initiated in, several hours. So this is according to plan, but
for now, let's check in one final time with NASA's Rob Navius following Starliner's exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Thank you, guys. Here in the Space Station Flight Control Room, Flight Director Anthony Varia and his team will be remaining on console throughout the course of the evening, keeping a watchful eye on things.
Space to run 2 for Starliner status.
Okay. We're just popping all over the place with who we're hearing from.
Go ahead.
Calypso has exited the approach ellipsoid. Sunny, we are ready for RWS teardown when you are.
Okay, she's on her way home. Congratulations to the undock team, and we'll be tearing down the RWS.
Copies, thanks.
Spacecraft communicators are here in the Station Flight Control Room talking to Sonny Williams, our National Space Station. The Starliner is perfect trajectory, moving well away from the International Space Station for its deorbit burn at 10:17 and 13 seconds p.m. this evening. Once again, that'll be a 59-second burn of the 4 orbital maneuvering and attitude control system jets on the Starliner spacecraft to slow Starliner down by 129.9 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit to begin its descent back into the Earth's atmosphere, and a landing just about midnight Eastern time, 11 p.m. Central Time, give or take a few seconds, at the White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico. With that, the space station team will begin to turn its attention to the next major activity. That will be the launch out of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on Wednesday of NASA's Don Pettit and Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner on the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft that will increase the station's population from 9 to 12, and the beginning of a busy several weeks of crew rotations on the International Space Station, leading to the start of Expedition 72. So with that, we're going to call it a day here in the Space Station Flight Control Room. Turn it back to you guys in the white Flight Control Room down the hall.
All right, thank you very much, Rob. Starliner is now on its way back home to Earth and has about a 6-hour journey ahead of landing. We are targeting again around 11 o'clock Central, midnight Eastern for that landing at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico.
We will resume live coverage of Starliner's deorbit entry and landing beginning at 9:50 p.m. Central, 10:50 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thank you for joining us for Starliner.
Until then, peace. Okay, so that means that I have a couple hours to film an ad and do some more Lego. I am building a Disney Magic Castle, and this is some serious business. But yeah, Junior Locomotive says this is historical no matter how you slice it. Let's see, there's a lot of comments to catch up with. Great success. 6 hours WTF. Well, right now, it's over China, so it has to make its way all the way to New Mexico, White Sands to be specific. I missed it, says Dante. When does the hatch close? The hatch will close shortly before re-entry. So in several hours. I know it looks weird, but this is normal. So yeah, I do plan to come back in a few hours. I guess maybe some of you guys would enjoy that. Let's see here. Sing something for us, Ellie. Something tragic. Oh my gosh, I have to think of a song in between these live streams. But I think this is actually kind of hard to play. I ordered it. I was like, maybe I can learn the theme to Gilligan's Island. No, I have not learned it. But we'll see if I can think of a song in between. At least Butch and Sunny have plenty of food. Don had to start rationing his food when they were unexpectedly extended. That sucks. I did read an article that Butch was sleeping in a lab and having to pack up his stuff every day for a while. So I don't know if they've solved that situation. Wow, you guys are really, really worried about that that hatch or door being open. Now they know they're really staying until February. I'm sure that's sort of sinking in. I'm just going to add this video because it's a little bit more interesting than me just rambling on. So yeah, I do plan to be back. And how many of you guys are going to come back? Because, we're only halfway there in terms of the tough or the critical, objectives here that we do not want to have issues with. There's a lot of comments. Jeff says he imagines that the astronauts are emotional, but have relief that they're not on Starliner. Maybe they're sad that it feels like a failed or incomplete mission. I say that they're extremely brave to have gone up there in the first place. Sorry, I'm way behind in the comments. Okay. Thank you, Chris, for the $10 super chat. What time are you planning to come back this evening? Probably around 9:30 here, Texas time. So probably 30 minutes before we can get back to talking about some of the, background information. What I was starting to say earlier, officially NASA, and so the future of Starliner is looking a little blurry. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen because this test certification flight did not go so well. So officially, NASA has set the first operational mission operational, not a test, for August 2025. But Eric Berger writes in an article today that this just sounds like there's no way it's going to be feasible, that in a year from now, in a year from now, which is, quite a bit of time, but that they have other issues that they have to fix in the meantime. So this idea that they'll have another mission, their operational mission in August of next year, is probably, not going to be the case. Probably going to be delayed. And they may need another test flight again before they have their operational mission. So we could really see the operational mission sometime in 2026, but time will tell. But here's another interesting, detail that came out today. NASA has only given Boeing authority to proceed, the green light, whatever you want to call it, for 3 out of 6 potential Starliner missions. So it hasn't approved all 6 of them. Unclear if they will want the remaining 3, and that's money on not on the table for Boeing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Maybe NASA wants to see how the next flight goes. I don't blame them. And Boeing was supposed to alternate with SpaceX every 6 months, but here we are, and Boeing obviously not fulfilling their part of the agreement. SpaceX has launched 8 commercial crew missions so far, and now they have to rescue Butch and Sunny. So it's got to be a tough time to work at Boeing right now. So thankful, says Philip, that the Starliner didn't cause damage to the ISS. I definitely agree. Starliner is unmanned. I've said it many times. There is no one on board. No one's on board. So everyone's safe. Okay. Man, some people, some of these comments are really something. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the YouTuber conference. Jennifer wants to see the Lego building live. I don't know. Maybe I should. Geez, I'm just going to be live forever. Yeah, if you find that interesting. I don't know if people on a space channel find Disney Lego build interesting, but perhaps it's a good idea. Okay, I'm still going through the comments so I can catch up to where we are. Hatch open is normal. Sorry. They did mention hatch closer in one of their comments. Oh my gosh. Okay. Nope. I'm not going to give into it. I'm not going to address the thing that's pissing me off. Okay. Yes, the capsule door stays open even with a crew, says Indigo. The hatch being opened is normal. That's not the seal. Dragon does the same thing. So you guys, everything is nominal, is going according to plan. We can relax. We can relax. Okay. All right. I'm scrolling down. Oh my gosh, there's so many comments. I can't. I can't. Harrison, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for watching and being a part of the live stream. When you pack for 8 days, but it's 8 months, sure would be nice if Crew 9 brings them some extra, I don't know, underwear or something, supplies. Some people are being negative. Please, let's have some nice, positive comments. Let's be nice to each other. Richard's probably right. Astronauts live to go on 6 months missions. Butch and Sunny only landed an 8-day one. They hit the lottery when it got extended to 8 months. They must be thrilled. Wonder how their family feels. We saw Butch's daughter post on TikTok that she really misses her dad. And the post went fairly viral. Okay. Oh my gosh. Alexander, have you watched Tim Dodd's Blue Tour video? I watched part 1. I haven't watched part 2. And that's probably a good segue. By the way, thank you for the super chat. I'll just wrap up really quickly here to give you, I guess, my honest thoughts. I went to Dallas for a YouTube conference called Vid Summit, and I've known about this for a couple years. I've had interest in going. They used to do it out of LA. They outgrew their Los Angeles venue. Now they do it out of Dallas. And Mr. Beast basically, co-runs, co-owns, is a part of the organization and the ownership of this, pretty expensive conference, $900 for a 2-day ticket. And I bought the conference ticket because this ad kept flashing of Mr. Beast saying, come to Vid Summit, learn from me, learn from big creators, blah, blah, blah. And, I was like, you know what? I should invest in my channel, invest in my success, go to the conference built specifically for YouTubers, see how it goes. And I've received some criticism for this. But Mr. Beast didn't show. He apparently ducked out like 2 days before, was taken off the roster. I noticed this a day before as I was trying to look at the schedule to see when he would be the keynote. He was on the schedule, then was taken off of it. And, the conference never acknowledged this. There was no consolation. There was no, okay, he couldn't make it, but he'll go virtual for 20 minutes. And I didn't frankly know hardly anyone else there as far as like the big stars. And, I'm not saying that it was completely pointless, because it wasn't. There was some good information, but if you've been to enough conferences, you know that you kind of burn out of them really quickly, at least if you're like me. And so essentially, it's like if you were to buy a concert ticket to see, let's say, Blink-182, I saw them recently. If I buy a concert ticket at a premium to see Blink-182, it's not dissing the headliners. They're not bad. But if Blink-182 doesn't show up, I'm going to be frustrated. And I got like criticism for speaking up about this. So anyway, did I think that it was worth my money or time? Maybe I got some. We'll see. I mean, you'll see my future content. You guys can let me know if you think that, I haven't implemented any of the tools yet, because I just got home last night, and so I got to make new content and take these ideas. But I thought it was kind of a letdown, and I thought it was kind of lame. So anyway, Rodney, thank you for the super chat. You're late to the party. Here's $1 or $2 to help keep Ellie on the air. I'm glad that you want to have Ellie on the air. And I'll be on the air in a few hours. So I guess I should go. I have to do a couple things before we come back on. But, part 1 of the tough part of this undocking and went well. Breakout burns all went well. 12 short firings, a series of those, nominal. And so now we wait for a few hours, and then I'll hop back on and we'll see how the reentry goes. I think that's, part 2. Okay, I'm reading some comments about the conference. Yeah, I didn't ask for a refund. I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, man, like there were so many people that were like clearly Mr. Beast audience, young, like 19-year-old, 20-year-old. I guess I'd call them kids. Geez, I'm getting old. That probably idolize him and probably are already asking for refunds. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be like so negative about it, but it's like that was a lot of money. So I did get some sort of ideas. I think hiring an editor would really help me. Because right now I do everything, and that's certainly a recipe for burnout. So, I'm going to experiment with some stuff, but yeah, kind of lame. Mr. Beast wasn't there. Oh my gosh, Geo says Mr. Beast will be in prison soon. I don't know about that. Really? I know a little bit about the conflict. I saw him, apparently there was like a national news story about him today. Just get your money, don't fret. No, Ellie, speak up. Yeah, I am trying to speak up, but seems like when I speak up, I just piss people off. So I've lived most of my life not wanting to ruffle feathers, not wanting to be controversial, just sort of wanting to keep the peace. And, I mean, there are some frustrating things that I think, merit talking about. So thank you, Bruno, for the super chat. Here's to Space's most endearing journalist. Thank you. Love you, Ellie, and your reporting is first class. Some exciting things. I guess we should talk about some exciting things. I am almost done with the sequel to Liftoff, which is downstairs. It's called Re-Entry by Eric Berger. He wrote the Liftoff book, which was about the desperate and early days of SpaceX. Amazing book, sort of, chronicling what it was like to put together a team for the startup that was SpaceX, the failures of Falcon 1, getting Falcon 1 off the ground. And now Re-Entry is about the journey of Falcon 9, which was also, not flawless. And it's a really good book. And so I will be interviewing Eric in person. I actually haven't met him in person. I've interviewed him a couple times on my channel. And I just think that he is absolutely incredible for a source of space news. He knows his stuff. He knows the history of the industry. And not only is the book great, his daily reporting, his rocket report from Ars Technica is great. So I'm really excited to interview him. If you guys have any questions or, areas that you want me to talk to him about, we're mainly going to be talking about the second book, but I mean, he knows his shit, may I say. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I should be doing a follow-up interview with Jared Isaacman after their launch. So you can get excited for that too, hopefully. As far as Starship goes, I'm really nervous that it's going to happen when I have an international trip with my family that I'm not going to cancel that. There's going to be more than one Starship launch. So I hope it doesn't happen during that time frame, but we don't know. We don't know. So now when you're saying Eric is an insider, do you mean that in a good way? Let's see. There's so many comments. Wow. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I know for now. Those are some stories that hopefully you can look forward to. I'm really excited for the book to be released because there's some fascinating, anecdotal stories about just the trials and the tribulations that SpaceX went through. And I haven't really shared them, but there's so many interesting, stories about the development of Falcon 9 that I could make several videos about it. And, one of the chapters I'm reading right now is how SpaceX had to solve this problem of, densification of liquid oxygen and trying to densify it even more, and sort of the unlikely character who they called on that was not, didn't have a background in the space industry to help them solve this problem, so they could have, better thrust and performance on the Falcon 9 with denser LOX. So anyway, once that book comes out, I want to make a series of shorts. I want to make a series of videos about it. Because it's very interesting. And I mean, my gosh, people, it's been frustrating for me. By the way, Phil, wow, thank you for the very generous super chat. Money for the IFT5 launch coverage. I plan to be there unless I'm on that Europe trip, but I know for a fact Joe Tagmeyer is going to be there. And I also know for a fact that he will go live for us, so we can do sort of, if I am on that cruise, we will do a live report. We will make it happen, because I'm definitely going to watch it live. If it's in a certain window, I'm not going to cancel the family vacation. But thank you. We will give you coverage, and you have just solidified that. And I've covered every single launch with Joe. He's an amazing co-host. And yes, like John Krause, have you met him yet? I have met him. I was going to interview him, and then he was busy covering. I met him during, I think, the Dear Moon tour down there, and it was Tim and a bunch of other Dear Moon crew members. And so that obviously fell through, and I would love to interview him. Are the Polaris Dawn guys and gals still sitting around in quarantine waiting for that to happen? They are waiting for a favorable weather window. So yes, as far as we know, you know what? Let me look up Polaris Dawn really quickly just to make sure. Yep, there's no update on the exact date. So there's a lot of posts saying for sure this is going to be the date. We still don't know, because the weather has been not good for the return. So they need to make sure that is gonna work. Okay. Oh, what was I gonna say? Something else I was excited about. We saw today that the debut of New Glenn is gonna be delayed. It's not gonna happen in October. It's gonna happen sometime in the spring of 2025. Are we surprised? No, we're not surprised. We're not surprised. So that's New Glenn on hold, which is good because I might be able to cover it next year. Oh man, what was I going to say? I was talking about the book. I'm very excited to show you the book. I'm very excited to tell some of the stories of the book. Very excited to interview Jared Isaacman. Obviously, I plan to cover the Polaris Dawn launch. We're going to do the Starship coverage no matter what. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the super chat and also the sympathy for me. If I spent $900, to hear that talk and it got canceled, I would be disappointed too. Okay, well, I don't know if Mr. Beast is that. Sounds like someone on his team was. Look, that's probably why he wasn't there. The Mr. Beast situation, very dramatic. Wow. I'm very impressed by that, actually. Paragon, thank you for another very generous super chat. Great reporting, Ellie. I'm an EDL systems engineer, and I very much enjoy listening to your reporting. That actually means a lot to me. As many of you know, I started my channel covering Starlink in the Better Than Nothing beta days, and did not know much about the space industry at all. It's kind of embarrassing. And so since, covering it for the past couple years, I really started paying attention to it sort of like September 2021, trying to learn. That was my first trip down to Starbase, finding out what the heck Starship was and getting excited about that. And now I'm really trying to, understand the subject material. And, that's one of the things that I love about Eric Berger's books is that he explains things as, we're learning the journey of Falcon 9, and he can explain, something that helps the reader in a pretty concise way and in a pretty, layman's terms, dummy way, so that you actually do gain a better understanding of the problems that SpaceX was up against. So anyway, sorry, I'm rambling, but I'm really happy to hear that people that are, I know, much smarter than me, at least in this area, actually take my reporting seriously. That means a lot. It's kind of crazy, really. Yeah. So thank you. That made my day to hear that. I really do appreciate that. You need to be more assertive and be our insider, Ellie in space. Heck, you interviewed Jared and Elon Musk, which was, not easy. Yeah, I've been trying to speak more of my mind and, not hold back my opinions. It's a little scary. But it seems that a lot of you share the same sort of sentiment of, this is pretty embarrassing for Boeing. This is a huge waste of money. This is not great for NASA. You guys are not very big fans of Blue Origin, most of you. I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling. We should, by the way, I have some of you on my Patreon, and I'm thinking of putting up a community post of some of my ideas for future content, and then asking you guys to weigh in of, what exactly you want to see from me. Because I've had to think about my channel a lot these past couple days at the conference of okay, where did I start? What was I really passionate about in the beginning before this was a full-time job? Because that changes things, right? Once you have to rely on it as, the sole source of income, it gets kind of stressful. And it changes the way that you think about the channel and producing content. And so, in the beginning, I was flying to people's houses to interview them, like Scott Manley, like Avi Loeb, really putting myself out there, flying around the country by myself to, try to bring you guys really unique coverage that you're not going to see anywhere else. And that's what I've always tried to sort of bill my channel as, is that I'm not the expert, but I will interview experts to bring you the information. And then lately, I've been, kind of covering the news cycle. And so that's great. And that's kind of, since I was in TV news, that's where I feel comfortable. And I want to keep you guys updated on what's going on. But you might notice on my channel, I don't have a lot of evergreen videos. So videos that have a longer shelf life that, will generate interest over time. If I made a video update about when will Polaris Dawn launch be, and then Polaris Dawn has already launched by that point, you're probably not going to click on that video. And so those videos have a very short shelf life. And so I'm trying to think of ideas that are more evergreen and maybe a little bit more educational. So I think I should, as I'm talking out loud and figuring this out, I think I'll make a Patreon post and see if some of you guys can weigh in on what direction you'd like to see the channel go, and what you would appreciate me putting effort into covering and maybe researching. Thank you, Tin Man. To help support the channel, please consider joining and becoming a member. And I will post it also on my channel membership. Lee says, current events, keep us current and we will come. I will definitely keep up with the news cycle reporting. I mean, that is so important to me because of my news background. I just feel I'm compelled. I have to cover things quickly or else they become old news. And in TV news, if you're not on the story immediately, all the other stations beat you and no one's going to watch your coverage. And so it's that's still sort of ingrained in my brain. So I will keep the news going, but I want to think of some more sort of evergreen ideas that maybe I could hand off to an editor to work on that won't feel so urgent, that we can actually, I don't know, take a few days, a week even, to craft a thumbnail that's not just me throwing one up because I have to get the video up, or I have this, pressure that I put on myself to get the video up in a timely manner. So anyway, these are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Barney says, second channel, Ellie Limes. I do have a second channel, actually. And I made a Disney video about Disney Tokyo and why I think it's the best Disney park that I've ever been to. And it's kind of ruined the parks here in United States. And that channel isn't large at all. And that video is actually climbing in views. It has like 175,000 views. So that's pretty good for a channel that has only about, 3,200 subs. So I'm going to Paris next month, and I will make a video about Disney Paris. I also want to make a review about my building a $400 Lego set that I have in the other room there, and my review of it. Is it worth it? What do I think of Legos? So I want to, experiment with making some other content. Don't worry, it's not going to be on this channel. I have a second channel for a reason, but I think I should stop being a cheapo and hire an editor so that I can make more content and not have to do everything by myself. It'll burn you out pretty quickly. I like this idea. Should do tours of space museums in the US and around the world. That's actually a really good idea. Space. I like that idea. In fact, I am going to Houston in 2 weeks, so I'll see if I can put something together. I like, you guys are just coming out of the gate with ideas. Zap fan, things I didn't know before I started reporting on space. There's a lot. I'm writing these down. Before I started reporting on space. Okay. I appreciate that. Yes. Ellie, use your great investigative reporting skills to dive into the growing commercial space industry, what's going on with the HABs, labs, factories, etc. The HABs and the labs, the habitats and the labitats. It's a good idea. Okay. What is your other channel? Las Vegas vocalist wants to know. Ooh, a singer. I love to sing. I actually will very likely be meeting my favorite band next month. Can anyone guess what my favorite band is? Anyone? It might surprise you. It might even scare you. Here's my second channel, though. Thank you, Tin Man, for backing me up and providing the links. I do appreciate that. Santiago says, ha 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 ha, Disney Paris is the worst one. Well, I don't even want to look into why. I want to have an organic experience and tell you how I feel about it. So just get excited for that. Okay. Ellie, you just learned about ellipsoids. Maybe I need to make a video about ellipsoids. Actually, you know what? I should make a video about that damn hatch door and everyone freaking out about it, because apparently that's normal. The door is open. The door is open. Okay. Geez, there's so many ideas. Barney says, save $900. Don't go to Vid Summit. Just ask us for tips and info. Not a bad idea, honestly. Okay. Stefan says, update, please. I just got here. So, Stefan, I'm talking to you. So far, Starliner's undocking went great. The breakout burns all went well. Starliner is now making its way. It will be traveling for, nearly 6 hours to New Mexico. And so we have a few hours in between. I'm going to hop off the live stream soon here. So the undocking is completed, but the re-entry is not. And so I will hop back on for that. And that's basically where we are. And no, there are no people on board. No one is on board Starliner, except for some empty spacesuits. Wah, wah. How about a segment on investing in aerospace companies? Okay, I like that idea. Investing in Aerospace. I think it would be interesting to kind of go, like right now you can invest in Rocket Lab, which this is not investment advice, but I decided after watching the Wild Wild Space documentary to get some Rocket Lab. So yeah, that's a good idea. Because obviously SpaceX is not public, so that's a bit of a different process. You gotta have some money too to do that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. That is a good question, Christopher. I actually don't know that answer yet. So what is going to happen to the 2 astronauts that got bumped to bring Starliner crew home? What happens for them? That's got to really suck. I have not seen the answer to that yet, but I will try to figure that out. Sounds like Laura Trump. Whoa, decent voice? Or am I tripping? Oh, wait. Barry Manilow. You think that's my favorite band? That's not even a band. Blink 192? 182. No. That is my boyfriend's favorite band. Journey. A negative, Ghost Rider. Creed. No. Grand Funk Railroad. I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry. Train? No. Ooh, that's actually a really good idea, Alexander. Why don't you do a video finding out about the impact on the war in Russia and what it means for the space industry in relation to parts and making rockets? Good ideas. Good ideas. I know Jonathan McDowell would be good to talk to about that. Slipknot, no, but you're kind of close. You're kind of close, Joe. Nickelback? No, Barney. Come on. No. Oh my gosh. ICP, I can understand why you'd say that'd be scary, but no. Insane Clown Posse. Not my favorite band, but I do know who they are, so that maybe that is scary. Jeffrey, thank you for the super chat. Abandoned space testing grounds where they tested space equipment. It would be a cool video to visit and give a history and all the cool stuff that was tested in specific locations. I like that idea. It was interesting. I was thinking about, Kwajalein Atoll where SpaceX started, and apparently there was like no trace of it. It cleaned up and they left. So, but I do like that idea. Abandoned space testing grounds. Good idea. Casey and the Sunshine Band. They're not scary. But no. The Doors, no. Is Ellie a Swiftie fan? I am not. I'm not. I said it. I mean, I don't have anything against her. Taylor Swift, very successful, very rich. But I am actually not a Taylor Swift fan. So there you have it. Yes. Report on Axiom Space. I have reached out to their media department. They haven't gotten back to me. I will reach out again. Good idea, though. Wow, there's a lot of ideas. Holy moly. Leonard Skinnard, no. Okay. Yes, another vote for Axiom Space. So, okay, Axiom. I know people that work there and that are willing to talk, but we're still trying to get approval. Which is why sometimes I need to be a little bit careful with everything I'm saying here. ABBA, no. Rem, no. REO Speedwagon, no, but I've seen them live. Smashing Pumpkins, no. U2, what's scary about U2? No. Simon and Garfunkel, no. Okay. Okay. AC/DC, no. Metallica, I do like them, but no. Linkin Park, I really do like them, but no. Maroon 5, no. Elvis, no. Oh my God, I do love Rammstein, but no. Nightwish, no. Pink Floyd, no. Remember, I'm going to see these people in person backstage. Yes, we got a winner. We got a winner chicken dinner. Wait, actually, I'm going to have shrimp for dinner, but winner to Las Vegas vocalist. Korn. Feeling like a freak on a leash. Feeling like I have so leash. La 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 la. You wanna? I do love Mr. Kitty. That's a good guess. Yes, Korn. It's Korn. You wanna feel like can't I just let me be free? So do I. Can't I take away all this pain? You wanna feel like I tried to every night, all in vain. In vain. Sing with me. Sometimes I cannot take this place. Sometimes it's my life I can't take. Sometimes I cannot feel my face. You'll never see me fall from grace. Something takes a part of me. Okay. Anyway, I am so glad that you guys guessed it. Good for you. All right. Well, in that case, I am going to leave now. It's been great hanging out. Hour and a half live stream, pretty good. And I am going to go do some Legos and stuff. Actually, you know what? This would be very, very ambitious, but I might just do it. I might go film this ad that I have to do. Sorry. Have to make some money, you know? Film the ad, and then I might stream on my secondary channel, the Legos, for a little bit, and then I will come back. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Love you all. I'll see you in a few hours. You better come back.